We're here with Ward 8 Councilman Edmond Mack. Quite an active figure tonight in the committee meeting considering operation and maintenance agreement between City of Canton and the Hall of Fame, also a development agreement. Your take on the process, Councilman Mack?
I think it went really well. I think Chairwoman Smith made sure that the issues were focused, and we had some good drafts of the agreements to chew on for at least a week coming into this meeting. And so we really had narrowed down what the issues were. And through the good work of our attorney, Bruce Sowers, and our law department, Joe Martuccio, literally right before we walked into the meeting is when we got the signal that they had reached a final agreement on the language. And so I'm really pleased with the way things worked out.
How about fellow Councilman Frank Morris's point? Of course, having been an attorney myself for 41 years in Ohio and Stark County, of course, and of course yourself, a well-seasoned attorney now. How do you take the comments like that? You lawyers just overcomplicate things.
And that's a natural reaction, but honestly, and I can understand exactly why it's such a sophisticated document, because you have to plan for all the different contingencies. It's difficult for people that aren't like yourself, trained to understand why certain provisions are in there, but the provisions are necessary. And like we discussed today, there's never been an agreement like this that's been put in place in the state of Ohio, and it's a complicated transaction. It's a long document. There's a couple long documents, but I'm really impressed by the way the body, everyone went through them. They had some really great questions, and I don't think anyone was intimidated by the complexity, and I feel like the City of Canton was well represented. And
I take it that you went through each of the agreements thoroughly?
I did. I'm wondering who I send my bill to. I don't think I sent it to anybody, but yeah, that's part of the job, and I'm happy to help any way I can.
Now that you're where you are, and it's likely that this legislation is going to go forward on Monday, right. Next council meeting, lawyers doing the best they could. Are there any uncertainties and concerns that you have going forward?
It was certainly with the last provision that we worked on, Section 3.2, with the hiring of our city employees with respect to special events. There was a compromise element to it in terms of we would rather have all of our city employees hired for every event. But part of compromise is understanding the other side, and I think this was a good example of that, as to where we understood the business realities at the Hall of Fame, but still made sure that our city employees were taken care of, and hopefully our residents were taken care of. And so, yeah, would I have rather the provision been more one-sided for the City of Canton? Obviously, but that's negotiation, and I think it worked out the way it should.
Is there anything in the agreement that there was a few questions tonight about ultimate liability on the part of the City of Canton? Do those possibilities exist, or have they been buttoned up so that Canton's, you can, of course you're not the lawyer for the City of Canton, you're council person, right. But just from your personal view, do you feel like the council has buttoned things down pretty well in that regard?
I think the lawyers working on our behalf did. As I went through the agreements, there were the provisions that I would expect to see, that we don't take on any additional liability by virtue of us entering into this agreement. And that's important, because we don't want to enter into an operations agreement like this and all of a sudden be responsible to some private contractor for some event. I think that the attorneys working on our behalf were cognizant of that, and the provisions that are in place. Cities are naturally protected from liability, right. With the different immunity statutes. I think the agreements were well aware of the fact that we're in the job of being a city, we're not in the job of being a private developer, and the provisions are in the agreements that you would have to make sure that point's clear.
Okay. Well, thank you, Edmond Mack, Councilman from Ward 8, City of Canton, Ohio.
Thanks as always, Martin.